Hi, everybody. Welcome to class. This is sort of our inaugural class um, for our Tantra series here. So I just like to start it here. Sorry, I haven't, it's been a little bit of a couple of weeks since I've done a class or anything. I was hoping, I've just been flying a lot. I was hoping to record one. I had sort of a long trip to Singapore and back, and then to Australia and back to record on either one of those trips. Not that recording about a hotel room is all that interesting, but nevertheless, but I was just so absolutely exhausted from the jet lag. The flight to Singapore is about 16 and a half hours one way, and I'm getting old now, and it was just really difficult, so I couldn't do it. So I'm here at home in Vancouver, in my commuter place, and just feeling a little bit better, rested up. I'm finding um, I have to overcome my own specific obstacles for teaching this course on Tantra because I have, I guess, my own personal very high standards, and I worry about doing sort of a mediocre job at doing this, which I might end up doing anyway, or making mistakes or any of these kinds of things, because I hold this as kind of like the crown jewel of my life, this kind of practice and theory and way of living your life, the Vajrayana path, and I'm finding it a little bit intimidating to teach it, even though I've been doing it for 30 years. So I'll try my best. All I can say is that, if I can just do an okay job at this and get everyone interested in doing their own sort of journey and learning and research, then that's good. Again, just if it ends up provoking more questions and more desire to pursue the path, Tantric path, then that's, I feel like I've succeeded on that level at least. So we will start here with just the opening book of the great opening sort of chapters of this great book, Introduction Tantra, A Vision of Totality. This is the kind of like the old by Lama Yeshe, great Gelugpa master of the 20th century. He founded FPMT, Foundation Preservation Mahayana Tradition, with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, both passed into peri-nirvana now. So this is, he didn't write a lot of books. He died in, when was that? 1984. I think it was in Los Angeles. I can't remember now. I think he had cancer, if I can remember. I can't. But anyway, so this book is fabulous. It's got sort of a nice picture of an emanation of Guru Rinpoche here on the cover. Guru Rinpoche is Vajradhara, but I don't. There's sort of a newer edition. I'm not too sure if there's much changes in it or anything. So anyway, just want to get started and talk a little bit about this today. So I'm going to do probably, I always say that some shorter classes, maybe a few more, sort of a greater number of shorter classes on this, so I can just have bite-sized morsels of looking at the content of this book. So the first chapter is called Basic Purity, and then it goes into desire and happiness, which I think is really, really good. And then pleasure, disappointment, fulfillment. So I think next few classes we will look at that. And you can see if they gave you a breakdown of what's in the chapter, like, for basic purity is tantric approach, principle of transformation. The chapter desire and happiness, desire, frustration, self-control, religion, the rejection of pleasure, but in the path of enjoyment, following the path today. And then for the third chapter, pleasure, disappointment, fulfillment, there's image of wholeness, 4 classes of Tantra, source of dissatisfaction, tantric solution, and so forth. Okay, so let's get started here. I'd just like to do sort of a little bit of a briefer meditation. In the sutra classes I did over the last few years, I try and do half and half. I'll do it a little bit shorter now so I can get the meditation part, so I can get into some of the teachings and presentation, and then maybe have for a bit of a shorter class. Okay, so if we can just, again, get ourselves comfortable and just feel that we're seated in a wide open space, ground like lapis lazuli, nice and smooth and comfortable to the touch. Our Father on our right, our Mother on our left. People we love the most in this life are attached to behind us as support. And people we have issues, karmic debts with, problems, and so forth, be they personal or private or public figures, we have in front of us as objects of our prayers and compassion. And moving up from there, people from all over the world, all the natural environment of the animal realm, all the different living sort of natural beings like insects and animals and so forth. Spirit beings from the spirit world, we can have all the different spirit beings from the astral, elemental planes, ethereal planes, and so forth here. Celestial beings, different gods and demigods. And countless beings in lower states of rebirth, the hungry ghost realm and the hell realm, all these kinds of beings. And they're all here, all of us here like a big happy family, meditating together. And for a Tantric series, let's just visualize Buddha Shakyamuni's higher forms. If you like, you can visualize Buddha Shakyamuni with his higher Sambhogakaya, or angelic body, beatific body at his heart, Conqueror Vajradhara. And we can just feel that, at a certain point in our meditation, Buddha Shakyamuni kind of dissolves into his heart and we just have Vajradhara there. Or we can just have Vajradhara in the space in front of us and feel that he is the Buddha. He is the source of all the Vajrayana or diamond vehicle or thunderbolt vehicle teachings. So holder of the diamond, holder of the thunderbolt, holder of the Vajra or Dorje. And as a Buddha, he's absolutely beautiful, beautiful young man. Has an energy body or light body made out of sort of sapphire blue light. Again, like a blue diamond or a blue topaz or even blue lapis lazuli energy. And he's in lotus position. His two arms crossed at the heart, left hand holding a tantric bell, right hand holding the tantric dorje bell, feminine side of the body, masculine side of the body, right and left. So those sort of even represent the different sexual polarities. And the Vajra, of course, or diamond scepter, mace, is kind of like the connotation is that it's like a diamond, hard, like in pure as a diamond, also powerful like a thunderbolt or a lightning bolt. And he's wearing a crown, beautiful jewels, and so forth. And just like a beautiful angel that we're seeing in the sky, beautiful blue light, and we can feel at his heart on a sun disk is a hum letter, H-U-M, or the Tibetan or Sanskrit letter, softly emitting sort of a halo out of rainbow light. We can just feel from the five elements, white, red, yellow, green, and blue. And let's take refuge here. I and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings till we achieve enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings till we achieve enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Now generating love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one ever be separated from their happiness. And may everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. Now reciting the 7 limbs here to make our practice a Buddhist practice. With my body, speech, and mind humbly I prostrate, and make offerings both set out and imagined. I confess my wrong deeds from all time, and rejoice in the virtues of all. Please stay until samsara ceases, and turn the wheel of Dharma for us. I dedicate all virtues to great enlightenment. Okay, and just finally here, before we do our little Lam Rim prayer, let's just offer to open our hearts up to Vajradhara to see the Tantric teachings, a beautiful mandala offering the whole purified universe, just like a whole sort of handful of jewels here of all beautiful, joyful things as positive energy. We can say, ground bless this one here. ground sprinkled and blessed with flowers. Sorry, I just want to see how they say this perfume here. So the ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers. The great mountains, four lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offer thus. No beings enjoy such pure lands. So again, we say the ground sprinkled with perfume, spread with flowers, just like sprinkled with beautiful perfumes and saffron. And just feel beautiful flowers everywhere and flower petals. And again, the whole sort of Vedic universe of Mount Meru with all the different continents and subcontinents, all different dimensions here. All beautiful things and possessions and wealth and so forth and virtues. Wonderful offerings. And just feel that we're offering all these beautiful things up to conquer Vajradhara, Buddha Shakyamuni in tantric form, and ask for his blessings. Om Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Nirtayami. Now the whole Tantric Path here in the short lamrim from J. Tsongkhapa, just to sort of make sure that we have the right intention of doing our Buddhist practice here, our Tantric practice, make sure that it is Buddhist. The path begins with strong reliance on my kind teacher, source of all good. Blessed with this understanding to follow with great devotion. This human life with all its freedoms, extremely rare with so much meaning. Oh, blessed with this understanding all day and night to seize its essence. My body, like a water bubble, decays and dies so very quickly. After death comes results of karma, just like the shadow of a body. With this firm knowledge and remembrance, bless me to be extremely cautious, always avoiding harmful actions and gathering abundant virtue. Samsara's pleasures are deceptive, give no contentment, only torment. So please bless me to strive sincerely to gain the bliss of perfect freedom. Oh, bless me so that from this pure thought come mindfulness and greatest caution, to keep as my essential practice the doctrine's root, the pratimoksha. Just like myself, all my kind mothers are drowning in samsara's ocean. Oh, so that I may soon release them, bless me to train in bodhicitta. But I cannot become a Buddha by this alone without three ethics, though blessed with the strength to practice the Bodhisattva's ordination. By pacifying my distractions and analyzing perfect meanings, bless me to gain quickly the union of special insight and quiescence. When I become a pure container through common paths, bless me to enter the essence practice of good fortune, the supreme vehicle of Vajrayana. The two attainments both depend on my sacred vows and my commitments. Bless me to understand this clearly and keep them at the cost of my life. By constant practice in 4 sessions, the way explained by holy teachers, bless me to gain both the stages which are the essence of the Tantras. May those who guide me on the good path and all my companions all of long lives, bless me to pacify completely all obstacles outer and inner. May I always find perfect teachers and take delight in holy Dharma, accomplish all grounds and pass swiftly, and gain the state of Vajradhara. So from the heart of our holy being here, Vajradhara, streams of light and nectar flow down, granting blessings and purifying. So we can just feel that in front of us here. Beautiful conqueror Vajradhara, Buddha Vajradhara, is from his heart sending beautiful sort of blue light down. Just being absorbed into our hearts. So again, just feel that if the sun, it's kind of like that Paul Éluard, that famous surrealist French poet that said that, what is it, the sun is blue, a great quote, kind of like surrealist poem, the sun is blue like an orange. Imagine if we had a beautiful sun, but it was blue and sending beautiful sun rays out, just like, a beautiful hot July day at lunchtime. Or you're at the beach, let's say in Australia or down in California or something, or Hawaii, and you have the sun coming down, but just something beautiful, luminous, good and warm, but just all this blue energy, very pacifying. Blue is very relaxing too, all going into our hearts here, right into our root mind. All sentient beings around us are getting this too. And we can just say, please, conqueror Vajradhara, grant us your blessings of body, speech, and mind, you who are the synthesis of all Buddha jewels. synthesis of all Dharma jewels and synthesis of all Sangha jewels, your body, speech, and mind being, the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and Sangha jewel. So just feel that Buddha Vajradhara starts to shrink and get really, really small. Again, like the size of a piece of corn, a little blue diamond or a piece of lapis in the sky, or a blue sapphire. Blue sapphires are really beautiful. My mom had a blue sapphire ring. So we can just think of Vajradhara being like that, made out of pure, beautiful blue sapphire energy. And he comes to the crown of our head, turns around, faces the same direction we are, enters our crown chakra, and slowly, just like a leaf falling, descending to our heart. And when he gets to our heart, dissolves into our root mind. Again, like dropping a sugar cube into boiling water, this instantly disappears, or dropping cotton candy into water. This dissolves. And we feel great bliss and great joy and spaciousness here. So just an unboundedness. And just like climbing the top of a mountain and looking all around, just vast, vast space, openness, freedom, and bliss, sense of totality. Nothing's missing, at rest, completely satisfied and happy and at peace. Like Lama Yeshe, vision of totality, feeling absolutely one with everything. Just completely satisfied, blissful, and whole. And then joyful, just that open energy, or creative power. So it's not like bliss, like falling into sleep, but joyful, just like awake, sparkling, creative, bounding like a child, joyful child. Okay, that's coming out of meditation here. Okay, Introduction to Tantra by Lama Yeshe. Vision of Totality is the subtitle here. I'm just going to put on my reading glasses. Again, beautiful book. Great book here. So, Lama Yeshe, so what I'm going to do is I've just taken notes. I feel like I'm back in university here, and I'm just going to sort of give a commentary as I go through the notes here. So for the first chapter, basic purity. So Lama Yeshe says Tantra is traced back to Buddha Shakyamuni 2,500 years ago. So after 6 years of severe asceticism and self-denial to gain power over his body and mind, Buddha found this path of his asceticism very misguided, and as misguided as his youthful sensual indulgence. So if you remember, Buddha Shakyamuni as Siddhartha Gautama was kind of like the trust fund baby, so to speak, at home in his castle and in India, and got everything he wanted from a worldly point of view. all kind of like the sex, drugs, rock and roll, wonderful lifestyle. At the same time, found that he was encouraged. So his dad wanted him to be a great king and ruler and take over for him, not a great spiritual leader. He was like a sort of a sadhu or mystic. Some kind of oracle said that, your son's going to be one or the other. It's incredible, great spiritual figure, religious leader, or a great king. So of course, the dad, being more worldly guy, said, well, I want him to be a great king, kind of like take over the family business and not be some kind of hippie. So I'll make sure that he has such a wonderful worldly life that he'll never think about spiritual things. I'll give him everything he wants, whatever he wants to indulge himself in, he can do it. So he wasn't exposed to the outside world, as you know, in sort of the whole sort of Buddha's life story. He was just able just to have fun and have this amazing worldly life of sensual delights and worldly pleasures. And then for some, he had this sort of reason, when he was, pushing 30 or whatever, just sort of like existential crisis, because he was like, well, this is the whole point of life, is to be happy. In a worldly thing, I have absolutely everything I want, yet I'm still miserable. I'm still anxious, lost, and miserable, and have all this existential anxiety and this and that, and a meaningless, absurd life. Obviously, this doesn't cut it. If it did, I'd be happy. Everyone says I should be happy, but the more I live this kind of way, the more miserable I get. And then he, much to his dad's chagrin, ran away and became a religious practitioner. And as you know, he studied with a lot of the great Hindu masters of the day and became a very powerful renunciate yogi sadhu, and went to that extreme of being like hardcore black and white religious person and renouncing everything worldly in his body and no pleasure and just meditating, practicing all the time. And I remember one day said he lived on like one sesame seed a day for food or something like that. But then, of course, absolutely wiped himself out in his early 30s. I think at 35, I can't remember, but is when he was able to have his big breakthrough experience and find the middle way and realized emptiness, found the 4 Arya truths and Eightfold Path and so on. But the point is that what he found, the classic thing in his life story, is he found the quote-unquote middle way, or the way between extremes. So in other words, he found that the whole sensual worldly extreme, being kind of like a normal worldly person chasing after sensual desires, was an absolute dead end and self-perpetuating cycle of suffering. But then he found going the hardcore, crazy religious way to be just as bad, but like the photo negative of the worldly way. And so he found that going right down the moderate middle way was the way to practice spirituality properly, with respect for your body and mind, finding a measured way, which is ironically just the Greek way. So I remember Albert Camus saying that this is a very Mediterranean way of looking at things rather than the extreme black and white Northern European way of looking at things. This was the big thing in Greek philosophy, that we always have to find the middle way, the golden mean, as Aristotle would say, the moderate way. So Tantra, ironically, is the path of moderation in the same way as regular Sutric or open Buddhism is. And so I think the thing was when Buddha collapsed, almost like he was starving himself. I can't remember how the story goes. And then a young girl came by. It's kind of like a cow herder or a young sort of farmer girl. And she had milk, rice, gave like a rice pudding or something, and gave this to Buddha. And Buddha felt like he was kind of blowing it on one level. Oh, I'm supposed to be this incredible yogi. I don't need food. I don't need anything. But he was just so weak and dying, basically, from that extreme asceticism, that he ate that and felt like $1,000,000. And then it's like, oh, I have to practice the middle way and not sort of abuse myself, thinking that that'll bring some kind of spiritual realization. So as you know, his 5 main students, when they saw him do that, thought that he quit and was a loser and kind of blew it because he gave in to his desires. But anyway, so that's the middle way, path of the middle way that ended up Buddha's taught his whole life, like I said, both in Sutra and Tantra. And the analogy using, he had one student that might have been some great musician or sitarist or something. But, the story is, he said, how should I meditate? How should I practice? And he said, when you're tuning your sitar, how do you tune it? Do you tune it really, like down tune it really, really low? And he's like, well, no, I never, then it sounds terrible. You don't do that. And he says, well, what about tuning it really, really tight? And he's like, well, if you tune it really tight, the string will break. And so he said, how do you tune your sitar? And I do kind of like moderate middle way, like not too tight, not too loose. And then Buddha said, well, that's exactly the way you want to practice. Exact sort of way is the middle way, moderate way, right? Golden mean way. So all of Buddha's teachings are different methods for overcoming mental and physical obstacles to our happiness and well-being, and all fit within the two categories of what they call the sutric and tantric teachings. And the sutric are open public teachings of Buddhism that we're all familiar with all the different traditions and methodologies that you get in different Buddhist groups throughout the world. And then the more secretive, esoteric, mystical teachings of Vajrayana or Diamond Vehicle or Tantric teachings. Okay, these are the different paths or vehicles, but the foundation is common to both of them. And what is the common foundation is the pure nature of the mind. So that's the common basis or the foundation for the house. Both are working with the mind. The whole point of Buddhism is to tame your mind, purify your mind from a reactive state to sort of an affirmative state, from a state of negativity, selfishness, and suffering to a open mind of compassion, love, and purity and wisdom, right? Being sort of enlightenment. So almost enlightenment going from mind that's dark to a mind that's sort of lit up, right? So what is the fundamental purity of the mind? According to Buddha, no matter how confused or deluded we are at this moment, the underlying essential nature of our being is clear and pure. Okay, clouds can temporarily obscure the sun but cannot damage the sun. So our delusions and issues can obscure but do not destroy or even touch the fundamental clear nature of our consciousness. Deep within our hearts of all beings is an inexhaustible source of love, wisdom, and ultimate spiritual love and wisdom, and the ultimate spiritual purpose is to uncover this essentially pure nature. Okay? When we have developed our own inner purity, compassion, love, then we see this in others. Okay? We start to resonate with this. So what is, again, we've, in the sort of sutra teachings I've taught over the last few years, we've talked a lot about this, but what is the pure nature of the mind? What is the mind? So we know that in low reg, or sort of Buddhist psychology, when we're studying mind and mental factors, are what they call our primary minds and secondary minds in Buddhist psychology, in those teachings, the Abhidharma teachings, so to speak. How do we define the mind? The one definition of mind is that the mind is what they call clear and cognizing, or clear and knowing. So what do we mean by clear? We mean that, again, it's clear. Well, what's clear? Well, what's a clear day? What's a clear sky? What does it mean to be clear? In this context, when we say clear, we say non-material. What do we mean by non-material? Non-form. What do we mean by non-form? The mind, from a Buddhist point of view, has no nature, which is why it can know anything. And like I said, the correlate to here, what you get in Western philosophy, is if you read Aristotle's On the Soul, or De Anima, and he said the noetic, we all have three kinds of souls, whereas the nutritive soul, the animal soul, and the noetic soul. So nutritive soul has all living beings have that. It's the power of keeping yourself alive through nutrition. Being able to take stuff in and get rid of stuff. Whether you're a plant, an animal, or a human being, we have all that. We're able to move or be active or be alive based on that soul or life principle. Add the second soul for Aristotle, which is the animal soul, which is the idea that starting with animals, you could maybe argue this with plants too, but at least Aristotle says with animals are sentient beings in the sense that they want to be happy and they don't want to suffer. So animals even include insects. And so they have an imagination, because an imagination is the idea of dealing with alternatives or possibilities, right? So ironically, they have a mind, because they know alternatives. In other words, if they're unhappy, they know they want to be happy. They don't want to be in that state. If they're happy, they don't want to suffer. So they want to move to things that make themselves happy, and they want to stay away from things that make them suffer. That's ironically the exact same definition of what it means to be a sentient being, right, for Buddhists. Now then, like Buddhism would collapse the noetic and the animal soul together, but Aristotle separates them because he says that the rational soul or the human soul is sort of an amazing different soul in the sense that the whole point is that it is the only soul that gets to know God or the divine or the order of things, the whole kind of picture of why we're here, right? So anyway, we're not doing Aristotle's philosophy and doing the Aristotle's metaphysics, but we're doing Buddhism. But why I wanted to bring this up is Aristotle, maybe he got this from India, they had all that connection, Greek philosophers to India, so he might have learned about Buddhist Abhidharma, I don't know. But he said that the passive and active part of the soul, in other words, the potential and then the actual potential to do something, and then how it's activated, the actuality. He says the potential part of the mind, the passive part of the mind, so to speak, is just a sheer openness or a clarity. It is formless. Why is it formless? So it can know or be anything, right? Because the mind can know and be anything, be anywhere. So because of that, it can't be limited in its absolute nature. And so it's clear. So Aristotle says it's like when you melt wax, and of course it's not colored wax, just regular wax, it becomes clear. And then it takes the imprint of anything you put on it. It becomes what it knows. Exact same thing in Buddhism, since that thing, it's clear and cognizing. And then Aristotle says the active principle is like light, that when you add light to something, you're able to know it, right? You're able to see it. So there's that clarity and cognition along the same thing, right, in Aristotle. The other, like I'd mentioned before, the other philosophers, only really two of them in the Western canon, is Jean-Paul Sartre, one of the great founders of existentialism. And if you read his stuff, I've sort of gone back to his philosophy over the last little while. I studied it really extensively as a young man in high school in the 1980s and in my philosophy degrees back in the early 1990s. But anyway, he said the same thing. If you read his first great essay called Transcendence of the Ego, his work on phenomenology, working out of Edmund Husserl, and then into Being and Nothingness, of course, the Being existential opus we all know. He said the same thing, that he said mind, consciousness is a nothingness, a néant, or in French. What he means by that is it is a no-thingness. It doesn't have any quality. It's the source of qualities. It's the source of the experience of things. So it itself can't be any particular thing. And that's why its nature is freedom. It's free of all limitation because it has no quality. It can be anything. So this is the foundation of your quote-unquote existential freedom in existentialism, that you can be or do anything or create the world you end up living in, create the self that you're living in. Why? Because consciousness is no particular thing. It's a nothingness. It's just sheer awareness, right? And so Sartre even said that it's not the objects it knows, because it takes on their quality, but it itself doesn't have a quality. So he always said there's almost like a fundamental dualism between being, a specific thing or a form, and nothingness, a no-thingness, right? So there's all great things where, quotes where he said, consciousness is neither empty nor full, because it is the source of those categories, the meaning of those categories. Or he'll say it's like a flickering candle flame between being and nothingness, in the sense that when it knows something, it still is not those things, because it's a sheer awareness. And so it's kind of like between being and nothingness, between existence, so to speak. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. It's sort of a chat on existentialism here. But that's what we talk about the fundamental nature of the mind. And so, in Zen, when we talk about cleaning the mirror or getting rid of our delusions, how basically our delusions, our issues, our egos, all these are constructs. All these are like stains on the mind. And so that's why they can be removed and that they don't affect the mind. Anyway, it's about uncovering this beautiful purity, which is there at every moment. It underlies every moment because we're a consciousness. Like another synonym for consciousness in Buddhism is what they call object possessor, or that it's intentional. It's consciousness of, it's related to an object, right? But it itself is just awareness. It's just clear awareness. And they always say in Buddhism, that's all you can say about it, right? So it's the same thing Aristotle will say, like, because mind becomes whatever it knows, it says mind is nothing before it thinks. What is it? It is what it thinks. But what is it separate from that? Well, nothing. You can't say anything about sheer awareness. So what would that be, right? You wouldn't be able to talk about it conceptually or have an experience of it. So this is the foundation that we're trying to get at in Buddhism. This is what we're working with. And like Sartre says, that at any moment we're free, at any moment we can remake ourselves, at any moment we can be something different, at any moment we're responsible for everything we do. From a Buddhist point of view, this mind, clear and cognizing, is there at each moment, right? So no matter how much we suffer, how impure we are, how deluded we are, how crazy we are, whatever, how attached we are, how angry we are, how judgmental and bigoted we are, nevertheless, at any given moment, this purity of mind is always already there. And from a Buddhist point of view, because it has no form, it's beginningless and endless. All it is that it's a mind that karmically goes from one object to another. So there's a causal line, but it has no beginning and no end, right? So when we talk about Tantra, Tantra means continuity or thread, right? There's different meanings for this term, but what we'll see when we're doing Tantra, how it comes right out of Sutra. So Je Tsongkhapa in the Gelugpa tradition, we always talk about the unity of Sutra and Tantra. We start to see that of our 5 aggregates that make us who we are, we've got form, feeling, secondary minds, discrimination, and consciousness. Consciousness aggregate is just the clear and knowing mind. Form, our body, or even objects, all these things come and go. Even our secondary minds dissolve when we die. But what's always there as a bedrock of reality, right? The foundationless foundation of reality is this mind that has no quality, that's always changing and always knowing things, but it has no nature. It's the no-thingness at the bottom of reality, like the groundless ground, so to speak. We can't, this is the difference, like, let's say, even, like, at least conceptually, between Hinduism and Buddhism, is that this mind is, we can say, divine and pure, because it's perfect in and of itself. It doesn't become anything different, it doesn't change anything else, and yet it's constantly changing as it's knowing different things, and it goes life to life, but you can't put your finger on it, right? There's nothing we can really say about it. It's not a substance, it's not a thing. It's not even, when we talk about it being an ultimate reality, what would that be? So ironically, Sartre calls Being Nothingness a treatise of fundamental phenomenological ontology in the sense of the science of being as being. But as a Buddhist point of view, if things are nothingness, can we even talk about an ontology? Can we even talk about things having an existence? What is this thing? That's why we call it suchness or emptiness. We can't really, in the end of it, there's a limitation of what we can talk about. We have sort of a nominal picture of it, but we know once we experience it, we can't really put it into words or really pin it down in any way. So this is the thread that takes us, this mind is the thread in Sutra that takes us into Tantra. This is the thread that takes us from our deluded state of, as a sentient being suffering, into a pure state of an enlightened being or Buddha, which is like an angel, beyond life or death, beyond suffering. The ground here, the bridge, is the purity of the mind, the consciousness aggregate. And that's why that's my Buddha nature. That's the same as me and Buddha. The one thing we share in common between me, the sentient being of flesh and blood that's been put together, when at conception, I become a baby, I'm growing up, and then I start becoming an old man, fall apart. I undergo the true sufferings of old age, sickness, and death, and reincarnation. And a Buddha, which is beyond all of that, which is just a pure divine being, like an angel, made out of light and energy, love, goodness, and compassion. We're exactly the same in terms of our mind. Our mind is just clear and cognizing. That's our Buddha nature. So in the Gelugpa tradition, when we talk about the Mahayana Uttara Tantra Shastra, or Buddha nature teachings from the Buddha Maitreya, we talk about the natural and developing Tathagata Garbha, or Buddha nature. So what's the natural one is this basic state so to speak, the stateless state, the mind that is just clear and knowing. That's always already there, always there. And then developing state is the journey or path we're doing to realize that. So I always say it's like the snake eating its tail, or in Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit, when you study Hegel, sense certainty is the first shape of consciousness and ignorance, that once you go all the way to absolute knowing, you do the whole science of logic, you realize you've always already been exactly where you were at the beginning, sense certainty. So when you ask consciousness, what's truth? And you say, this, right here. And Hegel says, when you get to absolute knowing, the fact that you see that all anything is just our mind through language and labeling things, creating reality the way it is, you can say, what's truth? This is it. This is here, right? I go right around in a circle. I see that how consciousness self-develops, a self-awareness of itself as consciousness from Hegel's system. Same kind of thing here with Tantra. I'm always already enlightened on this one level, that my mind, by being clear and aware, is beyond suffering, is absolutely perfect and beyond samsara. I just have to do the Jungian journey of like developing my positive qualities, developing merit, good spiritual energy, getting rid of all the negative qualities, actions, and habits that make me suffer, to uncover this, to see that why this is always already the case. Okay, the existence of this deep, essentially pure nature of the mind is not a matter of belief or dogma, but experience. So the key is, I can tell you all this, but you have to meditate and come to your own experience of this. People throughout history have discovered this great treasure of peace, love, and wisdom within themselves. The ultimate goal of human evolution, according to Buddhism, is enlightenment, right? Which can be achieved by all sentient beings or everybody, and attain when all the delusions such as greed, hatred, ignorance, and we can, attachment, judgmental mind, all these things that are presently obscuring have been removed by our spiritual practice. And all positive qualities have been fully developed. The state of complete fulfillment or awakening is characterized by unlimited wisdom, unlimited compassion, and unlimited power or skill, which are sort of archetypally embodied by the three Buddhas of the Buddha of wisdom, Manjushri, Buddha of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, and Buddha of power, Vajrapani. So when we develop these three qualities within ourselves, sort of like the mind that's clear and knowing expresses those things, that's kind of how we are as an enlightened being. Okay, so Tantric approach. Sutra, the path to fulfillment, is a gradual process of cleaning our mind of all its faults and limitations and developing beneficial qualities like love and wisdom. This path consists in creating specific causes, behaving ethically, developing our powers of concentration, training and insight for future attainment of enlightenment. Because of the emphasis on creating for future result, the gradual approach of Sutra is called the causal vehicle to enlightenment. So, of course, we've talked about this in all the Sutra teachings, is that, the basis of our Buddhist path, like in Lam Rim, the initial, intermediate, and great scope of Lam Rim, to get enlightened, to realize selflessness or emptiness, see the ultimate nature of things with our mind of clear and cognizing mind, to get enlightened, to sort of get rid of all of our sufferings of samsara, our self-cherishing that leads to that, well, because we develop the three higher trainings, which is, again, ethics, concentration, and wisdom. In other words, we cultivate, like Aristotle said, ethics is cultivating the right kinds of habits. We create habits that, because they're habits that cherish others, create happiness for ourselves and others. And by having an ethical morality, we end up training our mind through discipline, having good habits. So that's what sort of tames our mind, being ethical at first. Having a tamed mind leads to our concentration, the second higher training of concentration, and our mind, which isn't distracted, sleepy, spaced out. With this concentrated mind, we can meditate on selflessness or emptiness and release ourselves of our fundamental ignorance or grasping mind or ego grasping mind, and reach enlightenment. So this is what they call the causal approach, sort of the linear causal approach to enlightenment. So when you're doing the open teachings of Sutra, it takes a very, very long time. They always like to say 3 great aeons of practice. Lifetime after lifetime, you're picking up where you left off, working on the 3 higher trainings. If you're a Mahayana practitioner like we are here, And bodhicitta is your main intention. You want to get enlightened for the welfare of all sentient beings, to make them Buddhas as well as yourself. Then part of the three higher trainings on top of that, you're practicing the six perfections, right? You're, giving, um, patience, joyous effort, morality, again, ethics, and sort of the three higher trainings are contained in three of the paramitas, like ethics, concentration, and wisdom realizing emptiness. That takes a long time. So that's the causal thing, using karma, just cause and effect, creating the habits one foot in front of the other. Now, the speedy path to enlightenment, or Tantra, is again using the same cause as the sutra, but also we take the future result of our spiritual evolution as the starting point of the path. So this is, so the yogi yogini learns to think or speak and act right now as if they were already, always already a fully enlightened Buddha. This powerful approach brings the future result of our fully awakened in the present moment of our spiritual practice. So Tantra is therefore called the resultant vehicle. Okay. So from Tantra, the perfection isn't something we're working to in the future almost linearly. It's right now that we see it. And by seeing it here right now, we're bringing it about quicker, right? So this is the resultant vehicle, right? This is how we have it. So I always like to say, when you study Aristotle, or even going into Sartre and into the existentialists, their version of time, which is interesting. If we're looking at a linear version of time, that's past, present, future. It's more of the Cartesian view, like the billiard ball, T1, I hit it, T2, it starts rolling, T3, it hits the second billiard ball, T4, or timer moment 4, it goes into the into the pocket. So this is sort of the classical view of time you get in physics and Newtonian physics. I know, it's a little bit different in quantum physics. But Aristotle said that actually, when you look at living beings, they don't work that way. They don't work in terms of what he calls efficient causality, to look in terms of goal-oriented causality, what he calls final causality. Where living things, like let's say a person or an animal, we look in terms of future, past, present. Future, past, present, how's time like that? Well, the future that I want to bring about is kind of bringing itself about by being the goal I'm working towards. It's in me already, this goal of who I want to be. It's coming through the past, the sense that by something I'm working towards, it's already using all the past habits and resources and tools in the person I am to determine my present behavior right now. So if I want to be a great Ironman marathon runner, that's like I decide that I want to be healthy, I want to lose weight in my middle age and be a great marathon runner. My future self as a marathon runner, I see myself running the New York Marathon right now, is here in me right now as I get up at 5 a.m. in the morning in Vancouver to have a jog before work, let's say. So my future self right now, becoming this great runner, is what's in me right now, getting me up at 5, and it's also activating all my past karma or habits, in the sense that, well, over the last month, every day at 5 a.m., I've been getting up to go for a jog. And all my jogging I did, even in the past when I was in high school gym class, and off and on jogging that I've been done over the years, that's put me where I am right now, in the sense that it's kind of like a continuity I'm activating to be this future great runner. And that's determining the present. Right now, 5 a.m., jump out of bed, put my clothes on, my sneakers, and I start running down the street before work. So future, past, present. So for Tantra, I'm acting like I'm a Buddha right here, right now, rather than being a sutra thing where it's something I'm shooting for in the future linearly. Oh, one day I'm going to get enlightened. I have to keep marching up the hill. Here it's like I'm already on top of the mountain. I'm already a Buddha. I'm going to visualize myself as I'm going to act like I'm a Buddha. I'm going to act like everyone else is a Buddha. And again, this discloses all the path that I've been on right now as a Buddhist, all my studying, all my learning, all my practice, and it determines my activity right now. So why is that? If I'm a Buddha, I'm acting like a Buddha. So I'm keeping all my vows and commitments, all the morality I have. It's making me focused and concentrated, because Buddhas aren't distracted on their phone all the time or whatever. And it's from a position of emptiness or selflessness. It's allowing me to realize selflessness, the goal that I want, because the Buddha's nature is selflessness, just like me. It's meditating or realized the experience of selflessness or emptiness, right? But it's also, I can only visualize myself as a Buddha if things are empty. If my mind has no nature, it can arise as a Buddha. If things have no nature, I can change them. If there's no ontology, the way I think, label, talk, and think about things makes them the way they are, right? So you see that this is the resultant vehicle, right? I, by having this attitude right now as a path, I bring this path about. I realize this path. If I'm acting always already, that I'm always already a Buddha, I will become a Buddha that way. It'll stick, right? It's kind of interesting, right? So that's what Tantra is. That's the continuity, the thread in my weave of like a carpet, or I'm knitting a big sweater or something. It's that continuity, right? We can look at continuity. See, it's ironic, it's a play. That's why in eroticism, one of the philosophers I love, George Bataille, he said selflessness is an idea of continuity. There's no border, no limit. It's just like a flow, right? So we're talking selflessness, continuity in the same way. There's a continuity of mind that's connecting my deluded, unenlightened samsaric self with my future self as a tantric angel. And how is this possible? Is everything is empty, right? Things have no nature and the mind has no nature. So this is possible. It's completely possible. It's one movement, one flow, right? Okay, so just looking at my notes here. Yeah, okay. So Tantra, many practices of Tantra is the principle of transformation. Just like I was saying right here, practice of no self being transformation. Practice of Tantra, all of our energies, including subtle energies, are harnessed for this transformation. The evolution from ordinary, limited, and deluded person trapped in petty ego into a fully involved, totally conscious being of unlimited compassion, wisdom, and love. How do we achieve this transformation? Where do we find resources for this? The energy we're looking for in this process is the energy of our own desires. So I'm just going to stop it here, and we'll do the next class. It's already been almost an hour here on desire and happiness. Yeah, just looking at this. So what is if the view is emptiness, if that's kind of where we're working towards selflessness and the purity of the mind, that's what guarantees this process, that it can work and that it will work, right? So that's the car that we're in. What's the gas? Well, Tantra is, what's the alchemical fuel? What's the lead we turn into gold? What's the shit we make into something delicious, right? That's the energy of our desires or our will, so to speak. So we'll see, this is, again, the principle of moderate or middle way is, rather than seeing our desires, our worldly life, the life that we're in right now, is something being a problem. Now, samsarically, it is a problem because we're suffering. We're in a limited organic state of flesh and blood that gets old, gets sick, falls apart, suffers, and dies. So on one level, it is a problem. But on another level, it isn't a problem if we look at it from a tantric point of view, because this same thing on a principle of continuity, an alchemical process of transformation, can produce the result we're looking for. The organic life has within it the capacity to produce an inorganic life, right? We're going from a samsaric body of flesh and blood into the pure diamond, Vajra, angel, angelic light form that is our Buddha nature, our heritage, our like the ultimate goal or evolution, spiritual evolution that we're shooting for, that we're on the journey to get to. So that path, that highway, is desire, right? Is our worldly life. That's what, so we oftentimes call Tantra the path of desire as well. So what is that? How does that work? Well, that's the next class that we'll talk about. Okay, so thank you very much, and we'll just take a moment to dedicate this. by blessings of all holy beings, in particular Buddha Shakyamuni as Vajradhara, the teacher of Tantra, the truth of karma, of cause and their effects, and the power of pure spirit intention of bodhicitta. Everything we're doing for here, studying, and everything in our practice is for the benefit, the healing, and ultimate enlightenment of all sentient beings. Because of this, may all of our Dharma wishes be fulfilled. May all sentient beings reach enlightenment. Okay, thanks for coming.